I think that Moody's downgrade is probably correct, negative, right? Because the United States government today has surpassed $33 trillion in debt. It's paying more than $1 trillion in interest on that debt every year. We're just talking about the federal government's debt. Mm-hmm. If you add the private debts, households and businesses, you reach something like 90 plus, I think, $91 trillion in debt. These are absurd. These are preposterous numbers. And, an economy whose GDP is less than $33 trillion per year cannot have a top credit rating. That's just the boring math of it. But if you went to your bank and you were spending 3 times what you were earning, they wouldn't give you credit.
Right. That is exactly the example that I was using right before you joined us. I was telling the people, I was like, you try to go to the bank and you were spending 5, 10, 20, 30 times what you're putting in. They would send you out the door selling and tell you don't come back this way until you can get your debt under control. Why do you think that America continues to, because this is connected, the debt crisis and her provocative actions around the globe, why aren't there any adults in Washington, D.C., and why don't they look at the entire geopolitical situation and say, maybe if I pull back and stop antagonizing everybody, the very people who I'm dependent upon for their generosity to buy my debt, maybe they will buy more debt. But if I continue to antagonize them, they're going to sell the debt.
Well, that's centuries-old stories of empires. For you and I, and for any ordinary person and ordinary business in the country, and I'm not in the United States, but the same principle applies everywhere. We could all get along really well, trade with one another, because there's stuff I would like to buy from American businesses, and there is stuff that American people would like to buy from, France, Croatia, China, wherever. And in that case, we could simply live in peace and trade with each other. And, if somebody spent too much and produced too little, their currency would get punished, their credit rating would get punished, exporting countries would be hesitant to export their goods to them because they would worry about getting paid and so forth. And then that country would have to maybe tighten the belt and improve their production or reduce their imports and basic economic policy. The problem is that what you and I think about these things and the way you and I would deal with these problems is not the same when it comes to the imperial factions, which are basically the very narrow networks of powers that are clustered around the global banking cartel and the mega corporations that have grown up around them. Now, banking and empire usually go together, particularly the kind of banking and the kind of monetary system that we have in place today. And I'll try to explain in as simple terms as I can think of it. Basically, today's monetary system is, we have fiat currencies backed by nothing other than, trust and confidence. And we have fractional reserve banking, okay? All the money that goes into circulation represents debt. If there were no debt in the system, there would be no money in the system, zero, not a single dollar. And so for any money to be in circulation, somebody has to go into debt. Debt becomes assets on the books of the banks. So the banks, your debt is banks' assets. Your liability, right? That's the bank's assets. Now, given that the debt has to be paid back with interest, but only the principal goes into circulation, the whole system functions like a large Ponzi scheme, because the only way that you can pay your debt plus interest is to earn it from other people who have to go into debt for whatever reason, for consumption, for mortgages, for business development, for infrastructure development, whatever. But people have to keep going into debt, and the system is only stable for as long as it grows. So that's why we have this imperative of always growing the economy, the GDP growth. Even when everybody's satisfied, everybody has everything they need, and maybe they only need to make minor purchases, there's always this imperative for the whole system to grow so that people go more into debt and buy more crap so that more crap can be produced. And the government has to keep going deeper and deeper into debt. That's symptomatic. That's across the world, every government, every nation that has this monetary system in place. And that's pretty much all nations in the world today. Now,